Good morning. Happy Friday to you. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Hope you guys are having a great start to your day. A little dreary out there. Head on a swivel today, kids, weather-wise. Not ideal circumstances as we get later into the evening. It's that time of year here in Middle Tennessee and across the Tennessee Valley, it looks like. So hoping that everybody stays safe and that we can have fun for the next 3 hours. We got a lot going on this morning. Titan Center, former Robert. Damn it. We're going to have all kinds of screw-ups today, and Lucas isn't here. I feel like that lends itself well, or it kind of, I think it plays well into your hands. I don't think that necessarily works out well for me.
What do you think I am? You think I'm just here to mess the whole show up?
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of the general premise around both of you, no?
Good, you got me figured out.
Okay, well, as long as we understand each other.
Every time you do not say former Titan Center, you have to put $1 in the jar. That's my weekend fun.
Well, your weekend fund?
Yeah, I can't keep going out with you every weekend and just break myself. So I need you to put a little bit back into me if you'd like me to continue being your wingman.
Essentially, you would like for me to be paying for our friendship outside the confines of the radio studio.
Look at it as a fraternity, if you will. You got to pay for your friends. You got to pay for what you get in me.
I specifically avoided the whole frat thing for exactly that reason.
So did I, but I would also like to cash in on the motive. You know what I mean? Like, okay. I'm tired of going out and spending my money. I'd like to spend somebody else's.
Well, see, because immediately Russell says, "Where are the polls?" Yes, I know. I've been left responsible for them today. I was literally sitting in my car at 9:56 a.m. cursing myself because I had, forgotten to do the polls before I got in the car, and obviously now I haven't had left myself enough time to do them before the show. Robert asked me if I could do it today. I'm going to get it done. I promise before the end of,
No one else remind him. No one else remind him, because if we go through this whole show without the polls.
There's no way I remember by myself. This is the whole house of cards that we've been propping up. I don't actually know how to do anything. It's just the two of them operating me like a puppet for 3 hours a day.
Like a bunch of squirrels in a trench coat. That is the Buck Reising show.
SpongeBob, the episode where they're burning all the files in his brain. That's basically what it looks like.
You don't know anything besides fine dining. What's your name? What's my name?
I'd just be a drooling idiot otherwise. Anyway, we got Coach Mack at 11:20. We got former Titan Center Ben Jones in studio for the entire noon hour. I'm looking forward to hanging out with Ben. It's been a little while since we've seen one another, obviously since the season ended and since he had been officially released from this organization after 6 seasons here. So we'll talk to Ben about what's been going on in life and how he's feeling about the prospect of continuing his NFL career in just a little bit. 615-737-1045. is how you join the discussion. We'll have plenty of time for football throughout the course of the day, but we did have a little basketball news, a little University of Tennessee news to start off the show with. Olivier Nkamhoua, one of the most frustrating players, I think, that the University of Tennessee basketball team has on their roster, among several frustrating players, for those of you who are fans of offense. They're going to have to address their roster needs through the transfer portal with Olivier Nkamhoua now declaring for the transfer portal. So you've got Rick Barnes at this point. He'll likely have 2 scholarships to work with to add transfers, but they could increase that number if any of the current players transfer, which includes Olivier Nkamhoua, or Julian Phillips seems like he's going to declare for the NBA draft. At least that's what all the messaging around it has looked like right now. So I think that's kind of the expectation around people who cover the team. I was reading our buddy Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel this morning, and that was his belief as well. It could decrease if any of the 4 outgoing seniors, though, opt to return for a 5th season, which is very much in play. We've talked about how much older college basketball teams have been in this tournament. That was, I think, a big premise of our conversation with Belmont coach Casey Alexander yesterday as we were talking about the Final Four that'll take place this weekend, is just simply the age, the experience of players who have been in college basketball for 4 and 5 years in ways that aren't typical with the additional COVID eligibility that this has created. So we'll see what happens with the basketball team as we move further and further away from the way that their season ended. And, of course, we've got the Final Four this weekend. It's probably really the only time that we're going to spend time on college basketball this morning, I would say. And, the outcome, it almost seems to me like people are more interested, or at least I have seen larger discussions this week in general sports stuff that I'm consuming. I've seen more talk about the women's Final Four this week than I have the men's, to be honest with you. And that's because I think the women's bracket has the biggest star left in the tournament, in both tournaments, in Caitlin Clark. Robert, you were telling me this morning you were looking up ticket prices for the Final Four in Houston this weekend?
Like $40. Like, super affordable. I cannot imagine a cheaper time to go to the Final Four unless it was like in 1974 or something.
I don't know what ticket prices for those things usually are, although it would make a lot more sense that the ticket prices would be astronomical if you were dealing with known commodities like, as we talked about last year with the Final Four, Duke, North Carolina. You have Kansas, Villanova, all these different programs that I think have now larger college basketball bases than the Mighty Owls. Have you heard their fight song, by the way? No, it's not that.
Oh, Owls don't do that. I did have a premonition last night, though, that I'd like to share.
Premonition?
A premonition.
Do you know what a premonition is?
It's kind of like something from the future, like That's So Raven moment, right? Is that a premonition?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, ding, 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 baby. Rock and rolling on a Friday. Last night I had my window open, and I heard like a, oh, oh, oh. Mm-hmm. So I look out, and I see this owl, like, in the field beside my house. Like, it had swooped down to pick something up, and it was, like, kind of nibbling on it. And in that moment, I had, like, a, That's So Robert moment. And I could see the Owls going through to the next round. So I put a little wager at like.
What was it eating?
I don't
Your
know.
Cat?
I didn't have binoculars. I wasn't zooming in to see the owl pellets it was dropping.
Do you know they're actually idiots, owls?
Yeah, big dummies.
You would think that they would be smarter, right?
Well, because of like Professor O'Cool and like the owl that's like, how many licks does it get to the center? They're very inquisitive in like commercials and stuff.
Well, it's like when Lucas or I put on our blue light glasses and we think it makes us look more intelligent, but we're actually still morons.
It does make you look more intelligent, but it makes you look like Walmart intelligent. Like, it makes you look like,
whoa,
you'll want to get like the great value instead of like the good olive oil. Like that kind of, you're saving so much money. Like, you're not really that smart.
Okay, this is taking me down all different kinds of rabbit holes. I guess that's where my head is at on
Owls
Friday.
Eat rabbits too.
Not just that. Do you know, I'm almost ashamed. What's the most you've ever paid for olive oil? Like a bottle of olive oil?
Oh, my God. Probably those big tins, like the ones that when you pour it goes like glug, 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 glug,
tins?
Glug. Like the big, look like castor oil containers. You know what I mean?
I've never seen that in my life.
You got to go to like an Italian market, and they have these big, like,
Cocos.
There you go, Cocos, exactly. It's like the gasoline pack that was on the back of a Humvee. They're huge, and when you pour them, they make that beautiful, like, glug, 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 glug noise. I don't know how much they were, but it was more than I've ever spent on like oil for my car. I would say that.
I mean, that makes sense. That's like a utility play at that point when you're coming out with a literal jug. I'm talking about for one of those like tiny little bottles. I got the farmer's market's by my place,
sure.
So I go to the farmer's market a lot. And, I understand that there's going to be a little bit of an uptick in what you're paying for things at the farmer's market versus what you might get at Murder Kroger, which is down the street from my farmer's market.
Sure.
So I'm walking around in there, and I like olive oil. I'm starting to get myself Lucas's thirst traps on Instagram.
Oh my God! Don't get me started.
The food looks incredible. I'd never tell him that he's good at anything when he was actually here, but like his Instagram is legit food porn. So I've tried to start cooking myself. So I'm like, okay, I need some olive oil at the house. I paid $40 for a bottle of olive oil the other day.
Stop it. Where were they?
It was smaller than this water bottle I'm holding in my hand.
Olives imported from the moon? Where did they come from?
They didn't have prices on it. They don't put prices on those things.
And that's how they get you. They do that at the Asian stores too. I'll go in there and get like different types of mushrooms or whatever. Never a price. And I'll buy the same things every time, and it's never the same money. I'm like, do you know? Do you just think you're gonna pull the wool over the sheep's eyes when I come in here? Or
I mean,
what?
they got me. Because at that point, you're too ashamed. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not going to put it down.
And look broke? Are you kidding me? I pay $40 for olive oil all the time, baby.
I would rather not be able to pay my rent than have to do that.
Than have your and having your card declined are two of the worst poor moments when you're like, you have to look around and be like, yep, yeah, I get it. I don't have enough money to buy this double cheeseburger. What are you going to do about it? I'll hold this line up. I'm going to wash dishes. Leave me alone.
You're projecting.
I am projecting.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We've already lost control, and we're a segment into the radio show. We're going to get it back on track, though. I'm going to tell you why the Titans should trade up to the number 3 overall pick. I've been thinking about this for the better part of a week at this point, and I've been talking to a lot of people around the NFL about the quarterback situation, specifically here and in this coming draft, where you've seen teams already jockeying. You've just gotten out of owners' meetings where a lot of these conversations continue because a lot of people are there to negotiate and discuss in person before we all scatter to the winds for the NFL draft that's less than a month away at this point. And I think the more that I think about it, the more I believe that the best play for the Titans at this point is to draft Anthony Richardson. I'm going to tell you why I think that coming up next. When it comes to insurance, you want to be working with a company that you know has your back.
40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have a run.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
Situation for the Titans being what it is, and everything looking like it's trending Ryan Tannehill as the starter for 2023. What options are realistically still on the table for them to continue to improve this football team, prepare themselves for a future level of competitiveness that they may not necessarily be prepared for this year? So the question that I want to ask you is this: which project quarterback among the two who are talked about as being more project players in this draft? You've got Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, who are the most known commodities. And then you have the highest level projection players, which are in some order, whichever you want to rank them, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. So between Levis and Richardson, which do you think makes the most sense for the Titans? Because I do think there's a very real scenario where they trade up and try and get at the quarterbacks in this draft. But I'd be curious to know what you think about it. 615-737-1045. I'm going to make the case for mine here in just a second, but let's go to the phones to start. Jason is calling us up first. Hey, Jason.
Hey, guys. I was on hold for the first half before y'all came on, and I was going to talk about some baseball. So if y'all want to catch me back later, that'd be fine with me.
Okay. We'll circle back to you.
We're not going to circle back to him.
What do you mean?
Nah, you just set him up for failure. That's like, yeah, I'll catch up with you guys later. You're never going to catch up with him later.
Maybe he wants to wait until Blaine and Mickey come on to talk baseball. I don't think.
Stop that.
I don't know.
I hope he has things to do. This is Friday.
He can. Well, wouldn't this be the day you're least likely to have things to do?
All I'm saying is, here's a hint, Jason. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you wanted to talk baseball, you should have hopped right in there talking about strike zones or pitch counts or whatever the hell's going on in baseball. Aaron's Judge. Did you see Megan Thee Stallion throw out that first pitch? I didn't see the pitch, if you know what I'm saying.
All right. Well, apparently the pitch or the catcher who was out there wasn't paying attention to the pitch either, because he was more interested in greeting Megan Thee Stallion.
That boy had a grin on his face when he got up there to hug her. I don't blame him, but good Lord. I said, so loud.
It's not. He knows there are all the cameras in the world on him at that very moment. All the cameras in the world. And he's just like, nah, I'm going for it. This is my time.
You got to seize your opportunities.
I mean, literally.
Jason, that's what I'm talking about. Jason, you got to seize your opportunities. Sometimes you get one moment, one chance, and you'll either end up with vomit on your sweater already or spaghetti. Mom spaghetti. Which one you want? Mom spaghetti? That's what I'd pick.
You really petered out.
Story of my life.
He literally seized the opportunity, though, which I think is the more problematic part of this. Anyway, okay, Jason, if you want to talk baseball, we can try and do that a little later on. Though I think when you look at the quarterback situation in this draft class, it's become a lot more complicated. Obviously, with Carolina going up to 1, particularly given that 3 of the 4 AFC South teams, you could very easily make the case, including the Titans, understanding that the Texans and Colts absolutely need to draft one if they can. The 3 AFC South teams, not named the Jacksonville Jaguars, should all probably be involved in the quarterbacks in this draft class. Now, Tennessee obviously has a little more wiggle room, but that doesn't, I don't think that Ryan Tannehill is enough, and I would be surprised if anybody were to make the case today that Ryan Tannehill is enough, or more importantly, that Malik Willis is enough to keep the Titans from legitimately making a play. If they do, in fact, feel that the 2 projection players, whichever one of them they might be going after in this hypothetical, if they feel strongly enough about their ability to refine the tools and traits that Richardson or Levis have. Levis, I think you could easily make the case for. Because I think when you watch Will Levis's game, it reminds me of Ryan Tannehill. And I think we touched on this a little bit yesterday, maybe earlier in the week, but I think that if the projection for Will Levis is Ryan Tannehill's career, that's outstanding. Like, that's a really, really good NFL career. So for all the Will Levis hate, if that's the way that it could work here in Tennessee, and you just basically have the second coming, which may cause you a little chest tightness, depending on how you feel about Ryan Tannehill as of late. But I think for a first-round pick, if you feel strongly enough about that quarterback, maybe a higher level athlete. I don't know necessarily that Levis is, though. even though Tannehill's getting ready to turn 35, then, okay, make the play for Willis, depending on, or make the play for Levis, depending on where you think you can get him. Because here's how I look at Malik Willis. I think that they're good. Like, I legitimately think that they are okay operating under the assumption that Malik Willis probably doesn't factor in the long term for this team's future. Now, that may sound harsh. It may sound premature. I think that decision was kind of already put in front of all of us, though, and him, when they benched him for a dude that they had on their roster for 7 days. I think you knew right then. Now, I think that's further catalyzed, sped up, however you want to phrase it, by the idea that the dude that drafted him is no longer here. And more people that were responsible for drafting him will probably not be here after they get through this coming NFL draft, because I do anticipate that they'll make front office personnel changes once they've gotten through this process in Rand Carthon's first offseason. So I'm looking at this, unless there are significant strides made by Malik Willis, I'm kind of good with the idea, and I think they are kind of good with the idea, that the Malik Willis experiment may not be worth the hassle, that the juice might actually not be worth the squeeze, and that they can explore other options elsewhere. I don't know how you could watch last year's results and see the way that they handled it and think otherwise, but that's the general premise that I'm operating under right now. So with that being said, Malik Willis doesn't remove you from taking any of these quarterbacks, and I think that applies to not just the first-round guys that we're talking about, but a dude like Hendon Hooker, who I think is very intriguing and doesn't have to play right away, who could become a good backup to potentially replacement-level starter, and we'll see how his career continues to progress. They don't have a lot of pressure on them, but there's a lot of scenarios in this where I think Anthony Richardson makes the most sense for them. And maybe I'm doing a little bit of conspiracy theory radio just because Monty Ossenfort, formerly employed by this organization, is now the owner of the number 3 overall pick in this draft. We know that Monty doesn't need a quarterback, and that Kyler Murray is the thing that they're going to try to work with because he's got a big old contract on the books. So Monty, that's negligence if he doesn't trade out of 3. You got to get more draft capital. It's almost a guarantee, just like it was for Chicago. They've got to get out of 3rd overall because there's too many teams that need to come up for a quarterback this year that they should be able to bait. Going from 11-3 instead of 11-1, it's going to be less expensive. How much less expensive? Probably not a ton, given that quarterback would still be the primary objective if you were to make that move as the Tennessee Titans. And with only 6 picks in this year's draft, that may feel like not enough wiggle room because you got the Texans with literally double that, 12 picks in this upcoming draft. They get a lot more swings at this thing, with a lot more room for error in personnel mistakes in a very imperfect science than you do at this stage. And you need probably just as much help as they do. So I think there's a cost-benefit analysis to do there. But if they feel strongly enough about whichever quarterback prospect that they would go up and get, for me, that would be Anthony Richardson. I can't speak to their draft board personally. I think Richardson makes a ton of sense. I would be totally good with the idea of them going up and getting Anthony Richardson at 3rd overall this year and having that be what you thought the Malik Willis situation might have been, because that's a far higher level prospect. I think the comparisons, the parallels being drawn, just because it was last year's draft between Malik and Anthony Richardson, are laughably bad. The comparison for Anthony Richardson is not Malik Willis. It's Josh bleeping Allen. So if you can shelf potentially a Josh Allen project type player on your roster while you gut it out for one more year with Ryan Tannehill on his current deal, hell, even if you extended Tannehill, which I know would cause a lot of you guys chest palpitations or something like that, but just to bring the cap hit down and put more things around the quarterback room on this roster, I think that Richardson is the thing that makes the most sense. And I would think that would be, if they felt strongly enough about him. I don't know how they feel specifically about one quarterback prospect over another in this draft. But I think that Richardson is the thing in this offense with his skill set that offers the highest level ceiling of any of this. And if you're trying to make a run at this thing with as much talent as humanly possible, and the quarterback is the thing that you've had the biggest difficulty trying to figure out, there is the opportunity right there in front of you. Whether they're able to execute it or not, if they would even want to. I mean, that's something that they have to work through themselves. But I love the idea of it. I think that would be my ideal situation for this team this year, is to find a way to get up there and to get their quarterback of the future. Because I see all this stuff about tanking for Caleb Williams and on it goes. And what's the North Carolina quarterback? Drake May?
Drake May, correct.
Okay, like you can do that. You can do that every year. I feel like every year we're talking about, well, this quarterback class will be way better than last year's quarterback class. No, just if you like one, if you think that's the guy, go get him. Enough of this screwing around type stuff. I just hate that as a logic, as a logic path.
And back to your point about if you're going to come up, you're going to come up for the guy with the higher upside. Look at what the 49ers did a few years ago coming up for Trey Lance. Before the draft, a lot of people were like, oh, they're in love with Mac Jones. Oh, they're in love with this. But really what they fell in love with was the traits and the ceiling of Trey Lance. And look what they gave up to come up that high.
And it hasn't worked.
It has not worked, but this is a case-by-case basis, right? We can't go at this like, oh, this didn't work out for them, so it wouldn't work out for us.
You can't operate scared.
Correct. Scared money don't make no money.
How many cliches do you think we can throw out there?
Yeah, that's the only one I've got. Don't put my feet to the fire. But you were also talking about what would it cost to come up that high. So if you believe in the NFL trade value charts, the third pick is worth 2,200 points. The 11th pick is worth about 1,250. So you would have to come up with another 1,000 points. The Titans' second-round pick is worth about 450. So, and maybe I'm putting a tinfoil hat on here. Kyler Murray is not going to play football a lot next year. He tore his ACL. He messed his knee up in December of last season. So he's going to be sitting out. The Cardinals have whether they want to be competitive or not remains to be seen. But if they want to be competitive, they would need a quarterback. And I'm just talking out loud here. If you were going to draft a rookie quarterback, why would you not send Malik Willis off? I don't know what Malik Willis can get you.
Well, yeah, because that's the answer. Because everybody saw what you all saw is that he can't play.
Yep. And, I mean, somebody made the joke last night with the 11th pick and Malik Willis partnered together in a trade, you could probably get the 12th overall pick.
That's awful.
But maybe if you threw that in there with their second, you can move up there for 11, 2, and a player, which is a much shorter sight than what the 49ers paid to go up to 3 when they traded 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, so in the 2021 draft, with San Francisco trading with Miami to go up to get the 3rd overall pick in that year's draft, in the last time that we saw 5 quarterbacks go off in the first round, they traded away their 2021 first, their 2022 first, and their 2023 first, along with a 3rd-round pick in the 2022 draft to the Miami Dolphins. Now, what the Dolphins did with those picks, Miami sent the pick to the Eagles in a trade up to number 6, where they took Jalen Waddle. Philadelphia then flipped it to the Cowboys, who used the pick to snag Micah Parsons. That 2022 first-rounder became Cole Strange, who famously was laughed at by the Los Angeles Rams coach and general manager.
Guess we wasted our time looking at this guy.
When he went as a first-round pick to the New England Patriots.
They were drunk as a skunk.
They were drunk. Yeah, and that doesn't look great in retrospect because they're one of these franchises having to pick the pieces up off the mat. 94 overall, that 3rd-round pick became Matt Corral in that 2022 draft. Because Kansas City did a deal with New England. The Patriots flipped it to Carolina. The Panthers used the number 94 choice on quarterback Matt Corral, who missed the entire season with a foot injury.
Sure, which is more of an injured reserve stash than anything. But
still, I mean, you're talking about legitimately valuable players in Micah Parsons and Cole Strange.
And the other 2 first-round picks were traded for Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb, who are both starters. Tyreek Hill, more so a star, but still.
So the Dolphins changed their fortunes with that. Arizona is in a similar situation, right? Arizona has a lot of needs. Arizona needs a lot of help and a lot more talent on that roster than they currently do. It makes all the sense in the world for Arizona to do a deal like this. I don't think it's going to cost the Titans quite that much to come up from 11-3 that way, but that's kind of the structure for what a deal would look like if you were to come up for whomever that would be, Richardson or Levis. I think that Richardson is the player that makes the most sense there. I think that would be my ideal quarterback situation. If you can find a way to get Malik Willis off the roster that does not involve cutting him, I mean, listen, I'm not above necessarily the idea of cutting a 3rd-round pick, but it just seems like such a waste of an asset, And a 3rd-round pick on a quarterback's a flyer anyway. Like I just, as soon as they did that, I'm like, hey, that's house money. If it doesn't work out, great. If it works out, phenomenal. And right now, early returns are no, I don't think so. Now, and I don't know how Ben is going to feel about answering questions about guys, especially a dude like Malik who's so young in his career. But Ben obviously played with Malik Willis and was Ryan Tannehill's center, Marcus Mariota's center, and I think Blaine Gabbert started some games in the middle there. Matt Castle might have started some games with Ben too in the middle of all this. So we'll talk to Ben about the idea of breaking in a rookie quarterback and what that was like for Malik when he joins us in the noon hour among a great man. We got a ton of things to talk about with Ben. I hope we can have some fun with Ben today because he spent so much of our media interactions being super serious with us, and I know that he's got more to give than that. So we're going to try and pull some fun stuff out of Ben today. 615-737-1045 is the number. Jack in East Nashville is next. Hey, Jack.
Morning.
Hey.
If it was me, first off, naturally, I'd keep Ryan. It'd be amazing to see how well he can play without teams around him from a temp agency. I'd send Malik on. I'd have kept Dobbs, put Malik's money and a little more with it to hang on to him. Then I'd get Hendon Hooker. Then you'd be covered 6 ways of Sunday for the next several years easily.
Thank you.
If I was king, that's what I'd do.
I hear you. I appreciate the call, Jack. We think Jack's a Vols fan? Dobbs and Hendon Hooker? Maybe Darnell Wright in the first round?
There you go. Throw a little Cedric Tillman in there.
Hey, man, I wouldn't be mad at any of those players. Not a one. So that's the dream scenario to me. Now, again, can you afford to mortgage that kind of draft capital in this year's draft when you got needs at wide receiver? You don't have an answer at wide receiver beyond NWI right now. You got needs at tight end. You don't have a tight end answer beyond Chig right now. You've got needs still on the offensive line, depth concerns. You could use an inside linebacker, to be completely honest with you. And at some point, I mean, if they take a safety in this year's draft, depending on where they do it, with KB's situation, Kevin Byard's situation, hanging out there in the ether, I don't know what makes the most sense there. But I think as far as the ideal quarterback situation, if you're talking about trying to get a rookie contract on the books in ways that player does not need to start right away but offers you a higher ceiling than any other option you have, I think that might be your best gamble. We are going to do, so normally at 10:45 on a Friday, we do the SEC stat of the day. But obviously, where is Lucas today?
Megan is in town, so he's hanging out with his lovely gal.
Lovely. Well, we're glad that Lucas and Megan are getting some time. I know that's difficult to do when Megan is off on the other side of the Midwest doing her medical residency. And Lucas is stuck, basically chained to that desk back there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's getting a little time away. Otherwise, I'd rip him. But that means that we can't do SEC stat of the day. So, Robert, instead of SEC stat of the day, what are you going to do?
A little bit of weekly positivity, Buck.
Joy. That's next. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for the intel edge you need to succeed. Gary's got the intel, so people ask him all kind of questions, including what's it like to work in real estate. If you're looking for a great career, I've got 3 reasons why you should join the Gary Ashton team ASAP. 1, success. The Ashton team was just named the top RE/MAX team, not just in Nashville, but in the entire world. 2, trust. Nashvillians like me trust Gary's team because they live here, they love it here, and they offer careers with unlimited potential. And 3, the Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Preds and this radio show, and they were just recognized as the #1 donation source for the Children's Miracle Network. Bottom line, the Gary Ashton team added 65 new agents last year, and they want you to join the team this year. So don't sell without the intel. And if you're looking for a great career, the Gary Ashton team wants you. Call the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage today, 615-301-1650, or visit GaryAshton.com. All right. So apparently some of you narcs are reporting back to Dawn Davenport about the conversation that we've just had here. Now, I haven't heard what Dawn has been doing on 3HL, but she texted me yesterday and said she started a new segment, Buck is Bunk. How do we feel about that? Now, I feel like I could give her enough material. I feel like they could do a segment off that. But how do we feel about the idea that is the segment choice that they have opted to make?
Flattered, amused. What other words would you like to throw in there?
Flattered and amused are work, but she is texting me tweets that she's getting right now. This comes from, hang on, let me save this draft real quick before I have to fire off a take. Andrew _delivers. I see you, narc. I'm on to you. You're not safe out here.
You are not welcome in our side of the club.
Andrew _delivers has tweeted Dawn. She texted this to me. Your material for Buck is Buck segment is about to happen. If you're not listening, you need to be. The Titans trading up to number 3. So Dawn apparently thinks that this is going to be segment worthy. And now as she is making demands of Lucas, who is not here, and asking who is producing so that she can make demands of Robert. How do we feel about acquiescing to the demands of Dawn Davenport today?
I feel like I need to eat another onion in there.
I feel like I would rather you eat another onion in here. Not me eat another onion. Not me eat an onion.
I ain't eating another big one. I'll eat some little ones.
Like one of those little those leeks.
Yeah, I would eat maybe
leeks
a
aren't
handful
onions,
of
though.
leeks. Yeah, they count.
Are they?
That's aluminium, or you need somebody smarter than me.
What the hell kind of word did you just try to use?
It's like the genus of onions is like aluminium.
The what of onions?
Genus, like they're.
I'm teasing.
Oh, okay, good. I thought I was really sounding dumb. I'm not good at this stuff, man. I remember words and then they kind of blend together.
No, it's just I haven't used the word genus, I think, since we were trying to figure out like not cell manipulation, but like learning about
mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell.
Learning about cells in like 6th grade.
That's all I could tell you. If you asked me anything else about a cell, it would probably go to Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Your retention is better than mine. Regardless, in the absence of producing Dawn Davenport's content for her, why don't we do a segment where Robert produces content for me? It's time for Weekly Positivity. What the hell is that? That's not Weekly Positivity.
I love when I mess up because I know you're just going to hit me over the head with it. So just take a deep breath and we can all absolve back into...
What are you doing back there?
I'm fumbling the bag. That's what this is called. This is called fumbling the bag. And we're going to breathe and watch it all melt away, Buck. It feels good.
What, you just have recordings of me doing ads back there?
I record every ad you do in case you got hit by a meteor and we had to run out the rest of the contract. Okay? I'm thinking long term here. Look, you knocked me out of my zen. Now I have to go back into my stage persona.
Do it again.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Buck, the end of this week has gotten a lot better for me.
Okay.
Yesterday at the gym, did not think I was going to be able to throw 2 plates up, but I stacked them on there, and I put it up.
Hell yeah.
I had 2 plates for the first time in my entire life. The whole gym would have thought that I had just broken a Guinness World Record for bench. No, just I hit 225 one time.
That's your weekly positivity?
That's my weekly positivity. Also, the owl. The owl was positive. I love seeing that Nat Geo stuff right outside my window. If I could just peer out there and watch owls just torment little rodents in the field all day, that's what I'm here for.
Are you a serial killer?
No, I just enjoy it. You don't like David Attenborough. On the side field where the dogs do their business, Robert peered into the souls of a barn owl as it caressed a mouse in its talons, ripping its entrails with its sharp beak. You don't see these things every day. That was not a bad David Attenborough.
I've heard worse, to be honest with you. It's better than your impression of me.
But Buck, I need you to tell me something good. Tell me something good.
Weekly positivity. I'm so bad at this game.
The weekend's here.
The weekend is here. It's a Friday. Coach Mac is going to put me in an infinitely better mood because that's what Coach Mac does. I'm excited that Ben Jones is going to hang out with us in the studio for the noon hour.
There you go. Give it to me.
That I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I think that Ben is going to have a good time.
Uh-huh.
I think that the audience might have a good time because Ben likes to pie people in the face, and I feel like even though it's not my birthday, my head should be on a swivel.
Boy, that would make me happy.
I understand that. You would not be the only one, except for the person who has to clean it up afterwards.
What's the chance I could get
me.
Ben's number before he comes in here?
0% chance.
Ben, will you pick up a pie shell and some whipped cream, please? Put it on my tab.
That's my weekly positivity.
And that was good. And
like
this has been another edition of Weekly Positivity. It's not that hard. You just got to dig deep.
It's easier on a Friday.
For sure.
If you caught me on a Wednesday, I couldn't do it. On Wednesdays, the world is ending. I have an existential crisis every Wednesday.
Quarter life crisis.
It's scheduled into my Google Calendar.
Yeah. Break down and cry in staff bathroom.
Between tapings of the install and the 615 sessions, I often just block out a segment of time for me to weep.
Self-loathing at 2:00.
Dinner with myself. Oh, I can't skip that again.
I'm glad you picked up on the Grinch.
What do you mean? That's the only movie I've seen. It's my favorite movie.
Because it's you.
I know.
It might as well be an autobiographical film about your life.
Oh, goodness. Let's get into a discussion around some new information that we have on a very interesting quarterback situation in the NFL right now. I asked Greg Cosell if there is a single football reason why Lamar Jackson does not have a contract offer from any one of the other 31 NFL clubs. You're going to hear Greg Cosell's analysis of Lamar and where the weaknesses in his game lie. Not opinion, not nonsensical generalities that are tossed out there, not contract talk, just football, baby. Greg Cosell with a Coach Mac chaser coming up next. If you are somebody who has been dealing with a general feeling of run down at the end of the day, if your sex drive's been low, if you're somebody who's been dealing with ED and isn't necessarily in a place where you've been comfortable talking about it, the Tennessee Men's Clinic is the place for you. They will get you back up and running again. They'll help you make you feel like you used to if you're somebody who has been experiencing any of these things. Most men wait a year or longer to talk about erectile dysfunction. There's no need to wait if you're somebody who is experiencing that and the side effects that it can cause. Depression and anxiety are something that come hand in hand with ED, and it can cause a lot of unneeded stress in your life. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has so many different options for you because no patient is created equal. They will look and find specific ways to work with you based on your needs and all the different issues that may come into play, whether your erectile dysfunction is caused by heart condition, diabetes, or different medical situations. Treatment plans vary as each patient is different. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has successfully treated thousands of men in this area with an experienced staff who will work with you to find a treatment path that could involve a variety of different options to get you back to performing like you haven't in years. So call them today at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, 615-208-9090, or visit them today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Tennessee forward Olivier Nkamhoua entered the NCAA transfer portal as Nkamhoua appeared in 112 games for the Vols, including 58 starts. He averaged 6.5 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. He had 1 year of eligibility remaining due to the pandemic. The Vols also picked a big recruitment up from 4-star quarterback Jake Merklinger, committed to the Vols for their 2024 class. A 6'3", 190-pound quarterback, also considered his home state of Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan State. And in baseball, the top-ranked LSU Tigers defeated the number 9 Vols in Baton Rouge 5-2. It was the first game of the 3-game series. You can hear Game 2 and 3 of the series right here on The Zone as we join the Vol Network coverage at 6 p.m. tonight. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It always cracks me up when that show open plays. How long do you think we will be removed from John Robinson's firing before that intro is removed? It cracks me up. I mean, not for John, obviously that's terrible, but like it's like a ghost coming talking to you from the beyond. That was from the first show that we did. Still in there.
He still matters.
No, I happen to personally enjoy John Robinson. But you know, the way that I cover and what did he say? Attack covering the football team. Why is it always attacking in football? I mean, it makes sense, but
I think that was more pointed at you, how aggressive you are in most situations.
Well,
head on a swivel and all that jazz.
Okay, well, you know, that could be construed in a variety of different ways that I find unpleasant. But either way, we're happy to have you guys here for the next 2 hours. Coach Mack in 20 minutes from now. Ben Jones, former Titan center, in an hour, going to be in studio with us. So we'll look forward to hanging out with Ben then. But with all the different things that we've talked about, we talked about quarterback scenarios for the Titans this morning, and why I think it makes a ton of sense for them to trade up to number 3 and make a play for, in my personal opinion, Anthony Richardson. If their quarterback interests lie elsewhere, then perhaps that can be discussed. But I do think that it should not be ruled out, this team trading up in this year's draft to go get a quarterback. Now, that would bang the Indianapolis Colts in a big spot. Colts are sitting there at 4. Colts have really had their quarterback fate taken out of their hands very quickly, even though they have a top 5 draft pick. It's kind of like a couple years ago. You remember the lottery that had Zion in it, the NBA draft lottery? And the Knicks fans thought for sure that they were going to have the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft lottery, and I think they ended up with the worst possible pick in the lottery. Like, I can't remember the player that they got out of Duke.
They got R.J. Barrett.
And R.J. Barrett's been a functional NBA player, and Zion has been hurt a great deal, so maybe that ended up working out for them. But, like, the just calamity in the streets of New York when they did not get the Zion pick, I remember seeing on social media and laughing out loud at. That, I imagine, is what it feels like to be a Colts fan right now, where you know desperately that you've got a horrible quarterback situation. You've just survived a season from hell, from actual hell, where your ownership thought it would be a good idea to just, you know what, bleep it. Let's put Jeff Saturday. Let's take him off the television screen that's playing in my office or in airport bars around America, and let's slap Jeff Saturday in a headset and ride this thing out. And it went predictably, horrifyingly. Now, it probably brings Titans fans a great deal of solace this offseason that the 2 most tortured fan bases, I feel like, in football at this point, or at least in the offseason, are Baltimore and Indianapolis. That has to give you some semblance of joy, I would imagine.
It perks me up just a little bit. Not enough, but just a little bit.
So wait, do you also hate Indianapolis?
I'm not a fan. No.
Because they took the Colts?
There you go.
What is this Baltimore allegiance that you have?
What do you? What? We're not going to dig into this, but
I feel like we should.
If you really must know, when I wrestled in high school, I used to watch. This is before you could do whatever you wanted to on your phone, right? You had a very limited set of things that you could watch.
Yeah.
So I used to watch. Ray Lewis gives these incredible inspirational speeches. So I would listen to those with whatever music somebody uploaded them to on YouTube. And this is before I ever watched any football. So then I saw that the Ravens opener was against the Steelers. I watched it. It was the 35-7 game. The Ravens forced 7 turnovers, and I was hooked ever since then. I have weird sports allegiances. I'm a fan of the Toronto Raptors. I'm a fan of the Colorado Rockies. I just have weird sports allegiances. I can't tell you why.
Okay.
But I will never judge somebody. Usually people are like, you're not from there. You ain't got no friends over there. Why are you liking those teams? Because I do. Because I can.
That's fair.
I mean, like, what are you going to do? Whoop my ass over it? Ain't nobody going to do that. So if I want to like the Rockies because they got a dinosaur named Dinger as a mascot, I'll like the Rockies.
That's the Rockies mascot?
Correct. Dinger.
That really shows how little I mean, I don't know why knowing mascots would be an indication of baseball knowledge, but I had never once contemplated what the Rockies mascot is.
It's a dinosaur. And if you're looking for the common denominator, they're all purple. I think it just comes down to that.
Somebody just pointed that out in the chat. That's my favorite color.
Same. You should have went to ECU with me, man. We had a great time.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. You and your hoity-toity Indiana. What's y'all's mascot? What's y'all's name?
The Hoosiers. Nobody knows what it is.
I know. That's what I'm asking you.
It's a drunk college kid off $12 vodka and candy-striped overalls. That's what a Hoosier is.
Really?
I mean, yeah.
That's lame, man. You should have been it with your banana suit. I would have accepted you to be the new mascot.
Well, freshman year. Anyway, speaking of Indiana, the Indianapolis Colts and their fan base are miserable. And the Cardinals have an incredible amount of leverage in this quarterback draft at number 3 overall. So, I've made the case for the Titans to trade up and get that pick. I personally think that Anthony Richardson makes a ton of sense in that spot. It would also, not just if you are interested, if you are the Titans, if you are Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, and you believe the quarterback of your future is in this NFL draft, you go up and get him. Not only do you secure the quarterback of your future, but you bang the Indianapolis Colts even further in the process and almost force their hand on a Lamar Jackson deal. They have Gardner Minshew and Sam Ehlinger under contract right now. There would be a scramble drill. And this is why after the post-draft makes the most sense for teams to be in on Lamar, that this would be a situation where Indy would almost have no other choice but to do the deal for Lamar if Lamar was interested in going there. Now, the wrinkle in all of this is, Robert, to the best of my knowledge, Lamar Jackson has not signed his tag.
The tender, that is correct. He has not signed it. Because he technically cannot be traded until he signs that tender.
So, at that point, if Lamar wanted to be traded to Indianapolis, he could sign the tender. The Ravens could then do the deal, if not match the contract. But if the Ravens decided to match the contract offer of the Colts would ride into 2023 with Gardner Minshew and maybe another veteran, which, again, sounds like nightmare fuel if you are an Indianapolis Colts fan, while Titans fans, Texans fans, and Jags fans drink the tears of the franchise that once ruled the roost in this division.
The worst possible scenario is Minshew Mania runs wild and he's actually good. Because he is not the worst option. I remember he started a game for Philly last year and he opened up like 11 of 12. They were awesome when he started that. It was like the first or second game he started with Hurts out. But he has another, by the way, East Carolina Pirate. I know he got drafted out of Eastern Washington with Mike Leach, but he started his career at East Carolina. He broke his hand so he would get a medical red shirt with a hammer. It's a true story. Look it up.
No. Wait, what?
He broke his hand with a hammer so he could get a medical red shirt year because they wanted him to play. He said, no, I'm not. Or they wanted him to come in and play some games. So he said, no, I want my red shirt year. And so he took a hammer, he got really drunk, and he broke it over his fist. Look it up. It's a real thing. He talks about it.
What?
Yes. He's crazy.
If
Crazy
there was
as hell.
ever an indication of me half listening is the when you first said that, I was nodding along like an idiot as if that was common knowledge. Like at some point, my eyes glazed over in the middle of Gardner Minshew talking. It took you saying, no, he got drunk and hit himself in the hand with a hammer for me be to like shake me out of my stupor.
Welcome back to real life.
What?
So just imagine him taking that hand that's just been reforged in the fires of Mount Indianapolis, and he just runs wild on the AFC.
If ever there was a place to least likely have Mount Indianapolis, it would be Indiana, where it is just so you can see across the entire length of the state. There is only soybeans and corn.
I was working on the Lord of the Rings playoff words there, but it just didn't work out.
You did a great job.
I do my best.
So Pistol Grip wants to know why we're talking about the sorry-ass Colts. Here's the thing. Lamar Jackson doesn't have a term sheet from another NFL franchise right now, including the Tennessee Titans. I asked Greg Cosell yesterday, just generally, not specific to the Colts, not specific to the Titans, but just generally, is there a single football reason why this dude does not have a contract offer from another team at this point? This was Greg Cosell's analysis on the football field of Lamar Jackson that is as lacking in opinion and just based on straight tape study as any you will find.
I would guess that there's a lot more going on there than just...
Certainly.
Yeah, so that's a hard question to answer. No one's going to sit here and say Lamar Jackson's not a great dynamic player. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, well, they don't want him because he's not any good. That's silly. Of course he's a great player, and he's an explosive player, and he's a game changer and an impactful player. We know. So there's more going on here, Buck, that you and I clearly don't know about. So it becomes very hard to discuss, why teams aren't interested. But there's clearly something going on that is probably goes beyond just his play on the field.
Yeah, it has to be.
Right. And maybe we'll find that out. Maybe all that'll get leaked at some point, or maybe we won't find it out and we'll not know. But it goes beyond on the field. Now, the only thing I would say about on the field is when he came, people can talk about what he did in college all day long with Bobby Petrino and he ran a pro offense. It's yes and no. Without going into every detail of the offense, that's a yes and no. It's not a straight line answer. But I can tell you for a fact, because I knew someone on the staff when he was in his first couple of years in the league in Baltimore, that they structured an offense specifically for him. And it's a little different than your quote unquote conventional NFL offense. And obviously, he excelled in it because it really played to the fact that there was no one in the league with his dynamic traits as a runner. And he's a good passer. He's not I don't know if we'd say he's a great passer, but he's a good passer.
Yeah.
But they built an offense specifically for him. So the question is, and I'm just talking from a football perspective, this may have nothing to do with why he's not been traded for, or it may have everything to do. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is, do teams feel that you would have to do that if he was your quarterback? And if teams feel they would have to do that, that's a little more complicated than people might think. So, that's like starting over now, trying to build an offense. And again, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just, postulating it.
That's Greg Cosell's analysis. That's from yesterday's episode of The Install, the podcast that Greg and I do each and every week for the radio station around here. We talked about Lamar Jackson specifically, and we got into we're doing a lot of scouting of prospects right now, taking a couple players a week and working through. We've done quarterbacks, pass rushers. Yesterday was corners, of which I think the Titans may be interested in, even though they've signed Sean Murphy-Bunting. At this point, I do think that makes the likelihood a little less, but there's a lot of fun corners in this class, and Greg and I broke down several of the prospects that you should be paying attention to at this point. But his point about Lamar is well taken, right? If you're an NFL offense, now one would think that there's not an NFL offense stubborn enough right now to not figure out how to make a work around Lamar Jackson. But I do understand what he's saying about if you've been set in a certain type of way, because not every coaching staff is willing to adjust, even as I feel like we're in a more modern era of football. The Lamar Jackson thing does become complicated, but there's precious few reasons on the field of play why that dude doesn't have an offer right now. So we're going to talk about this with Coach Dave McGinnis. We'll also get in. I want to talk to Mac about the quarterbacks in this year's draft. Given the discussion that we've had around Anthony Richardson this morning, I'll explain to Mac my logic. He'll give us his analysis, and we'll do all of that coming up next. Love a Friday at 11:20. That means Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is here to kick it with us. Welcome back to the show. Presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. They've been doing it for Tennesseans for 75 years. Farm Bureau Health Plans has got you covered. Mac, how we living on this Friday, brother?
Hey, Buck. How you doing today?
I'm good. We're rudderless today. Robert is in control of things. Lucas has left us to spend the weekend with his girlfriend. So, we've not completely wrecked the show, but we're teetering.
Robert has run the board for Mac Talk during the season, and I found him to be way okay.
Well, that's because aren't you normally somewhere else for Mac Talk? Like, you don't have to physically be in the studio with him, right?
No, we do it from the studio. Rhett and I do it from the studio every Tuesday night, live and in color. And Robert's been there. He's a really nice addition to it.
See, this is why Coach Mac is better than me. He's coaching you up, whereas I'm tearing you down for 3 hours a day, Coach Dave McGinnis. Coach Dave McGinnis is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Hey, Mac, I'm getting ready to have Ben Jones hang out with us for an hour, the last hour of the show today. Ben's going to come in studio and kick it. I don't know that we've talked. I think there's March Madness, and I had some vacation mixed in. I don't think you and I have talked about Ben since he was released. But just, how much he meant to this football team during his 6 years here on the field and off it. I wonder if you could speak to that quickly.
Well, look, I've been doing this for a long time in this league. I've been very close to players in my coaching career. And, now in this part of the business that I'm in now, still being very close to the league. I've got a great affinity, Buck, for legitimate tough dudes that make a living in this league, and Ben Jones is one of them. He could play in a myriad of places, and in a myriad of eras. Okay, in the National Football League, he is one of the best. And major respect for Ben Jones. I'm glad you're having him on. But as I say, in my long career in this league, I know what legitimate tough guys are that make a living doing this. He is one of them.
Well, and with that being said, Mac, like being in the position you're in, during your time as obviously a position coach and a head coach, like to have to protect these dudes from themselves from time to time, that's a tremendous amount of responsibility that I don't think people. I think people probably think about it from time to time, but it takes maybe a clip going around on the internet of Mike Tomlin talking about keeping Ryan Clark out of games because of his sickle cell traits and having to legitimately, make sure that you're protecting these dudes against things that you can't stop everything from happening to them on the field of play because ultimately this is an incredibly violent sport. But the level of responsibility that coaches have in that moment, I think people really, really underestimate.
Well, it's part of it. When you're coaching, it's not just strategy and the X's and O's of it. You're dealing with human beings. And yes, I've done it. Every coach that's ever done it, every coach that's ever been a head coach has done it, because sooner or later it's going to come down to you to be able to tell the player no, because unless he hears it from the head coach, especially ultra competitive players and guys that are really, really, dedicated to what they're doing, you make a very, very solid point. I've had to do it. Every head coach in the league has had to do it, and most of the time, at the point of the conversation, the players are not happy about it. But as they reflect on it, once they've retired or once they're out of it, they always come back and say thank you, because it's just something that you must do. There's much more to coaching, and especially being a head coach in the National Football League, other than just, drawing up plays and figuring out when to call timeouts on game day.
Coach Mack is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Is there a player that you had during your time that comes to mind when you talk about somebody who thanked you after the fact in that situation?
Kyle Vandenbosch. He had ACL surgery back to back when we first drafted him there in Arizona. And I thought the second time when I told him, as far as the time frame, he wanted to come back after that second one so rapidly, and I finally had to call him in because he was fighting the trainers, he was fighting the assistant coaches, and he refused not to
try to get out on the practice field. And so I had to call him into my office and say, Kyle, look, I'm just telling you. And literally for about 12 seconds, I thought he was going to come across the desk and choke the life out of me. But at the end of it, he was thankful for it. And that's why I, when his time was up at Arizona, and I told Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese when they came to me, I said, if this guy can pass the physical, he's exactly what you want at the Titans, and he's a perfect match with Jim Washburn. And it all ended up worked out pretty well for him. But yes, I mean, I had to do it, and others that I had to do it with, and they didn't like it at the time, but in reflection, they knew it was the right call.
I have the visual now of Van den Bosch like just seething in your office at this point. Is Kyle Van den Bosch, the player that you coached, most likely to come across the desk and choke the life out of you?
No. I had some others. I've had plenty of dudes before. And that's what you love that. You like that. You like that in them. But at the same time, I think you garner a lot of respect from those players when they realize that you've got something more in mind than just how much you can get out of them to eke out a win on Sunday and then not worry about them the rest of the time.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is our guest here on 104.5 The Zone, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Make sure you check out all the great things that they are putting out at this time of year. Obviously, Coach Mack, Rhett Bryan, Amy Wells, and Mike Keith getting ready for the NFL draft coverage that Titans Radio does. The OTP, a great thing to keep track of in the offseason, and certainly the Titans Amy and Coach Mack podcast available for you as well, all at TennesseeTitans.com. Mac, we have not talked about the quarterbacks in this year's draft. Really, it doesn't feel like. And given that Hendon Hooker, I'm looking at videos of him on my screen right now because of Tennessee's pro day, Florida's pro day was there as well. I wonder if you could just give us like 1,000-foot view of how you look at this current quarterback class.
Well, different. I mean, there's very ability set in all of these guys that you want to talk about. You talk about the top five, most notably on everybody's notebook right now on these guys. And when you start talking about them, I mean, it starts with young, and of course you start. The main thing is his size. I don't know why anybody was surprised when he measured at the combine. We all knew he was short. But the thing, just watch his production, and then you've got to decide as an organization what you want to do. I mean, if you're fine with that, well then there's a lot of production there to look at. There's a whole lot of pluses there, but you're going to have to get past the physical limitations as far as size and also a little bit of bulk on it. C.J. Stroud, to me, is a guy that kind of encompasses everything that you want. Got great touch on the football, has got the size. I think he's got the athletic ability and the lower body to move. He didn't move a whole lot there at Ohio State, but when he has to, he could. Some people are going to like him, better than the rest of them. You talk about Anthony Richardson. I mean, you've got a generational athlete that's got 13 starts. People are going to talk about his accuracy elements, but look, that's what coaches are for in the National Football League. And so as an organization, you've got to decide, is this a guy we can bring in, we've got the right environment for, that we can develop him, live with some of his growing pains, and then, you may have something very, very special there. Will Levis is a guy that's very polarizing because he's had two separate types of years in his last 2 years there at Kentucky, is a physical talent, and clearly, has the ability both with his wheels and with his arm to be able to make plays. Now you've got to try to discern and understand what kind of dude is it. Try to figure that out. And then, to me, the next guy is Hendon Hooker. That I really think that someone's going to take Hendon Hooker, regardless of the knee right now, because here's a guy. Plus, he's older, 25 years old, got some maturity to him, but he's got arm strength, he's got arm placement, and I think he has to be able to adapt to different systems. I mean, he came from Virginia Tech. He wasn't a starter when he first showed up there at Tennessee. And then,
he became a starter, and not only a starter, he became very, very proficient. And I think he's really helped himself with this round of just being around everything from the Senior Bowl on, so that decision makers can really get to know him. So those are the top 5 guys, in my opinion. They're all very, very different, which to me, it makes it very interesting. What organizations want to do, but regardless of it, they're going to have the right environment for each of their individual skill sets to be able to be. And look, there's no instant success. I've got enough experience in this league to remember when Peyton came into the league, even when Troy Aikman came into the league, when Randall Cunningham, clear back then, and those days came in and people said, well, he can't be a quarterback, he's just a runner. Well, none of that was true, but the environment and the development had to happen. So that's where I think.
Coach Dave McGinnis is talking quarterbacks in this draft class here with us on 104.5 The Zone. That I think, and it was a point made by Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel, who was on with us earlier in the week, Mac, the idea that Hendon Hooker is one of the best things about the unfortunate circumstance that Hendon Hooker is dealing with right now is that it's emphasizing his best traits, the intangibles, how he interviews, how he carries himself, all these different things, and almost a degree of benefit to not have to work out and do drills necessarily next to guys like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, who seem to just be able to operate at a different plane athletically.
Yeah, but for the quarterbacks, Buck, look, first of all, he's not better off being hurt. That's number one to begin with. All right, that's number one. But for quarterbacks, when you're vetting quarterbacks, you go a lot deeper than just looking at the physical traits, but they all still have to have some sort of level of physical traits to be able to do the job in the National Football League. It's different than collegiate football. Throws are different. Field dimensions are different. Windows close quicker. All of those types of things. But look, Hendon Hooker, you ask Hendon Hooker, he's done everything that he can because of the unfortunate knee injury. You ask Hendon Hooker, though, he would very much prefer to have been able to do all of this work and not have been injured.
As you look at is Stroud the top prospect for you, Mac, given the size situation that we have with Bryce Young?
I don't have a team.
Yeah.
I don't have a team.
Fair.
And that's the point that I was trying to make. It depends on the environment and the type of team that you have and what the structure of your organization is, both offensively and defensively, and what your philosophies are. He's going to play for somebody.
Yeah.
He is going to play for somebody, but it's going to be very, very important. I think every one of these guys that we've just talked about, we've just kind of, given, as you said, a 30,000-foot view on 5 of these guys. They're all going to play in the league. Now, their level of success, the timing of their success, all of this stuff is going to hinge on where they go and what the environment is like and what they are surrounded with when they get there. I've just seen it too many times over the 37 years I've been doing this as to where someone with all the capabilities goes to a bad environment, and all of a sudden they are derailed, sometimes to the point where they never recover from it. Some go in with an environment that's conducive to development, has other things set around it, is a solid organization, and with a little bit of time and a little bit of patience and then 1 or 2 good games, then they take off. My humble opinion is, though, Buck, all 5 of these guys are going to play in the National Football League. Level of success, I can't tell you that. And the reason I say I can't say he would be my favorite because I don't have a team.
Right.
I can tell you some of the places, that I have been where you had an environment where you could develop people. Absolutely, you'd like to have it.
How big is the gulf between Hendon Hooker and players like Max Duggan, who I know you're intimately familiar with at TCU, or Stetson Bennett, who of course will be in this draft class as well? Duggan, I had the opportunity obviously to watch during his collegiate career, and then caught a good bit of him throughout the course of the week of work that we were down there for at the Senior Bowl. What kind of, I know those players project largely as backups right now, but that's never been more important, I feel like, in the league, Mac, with an expanded 17-game regular season.
No, it's extremely important, and you're right. Like, Hendon Hooker may be a backup when he comes into the league, right? I mean, there's nobody that steps into the league that's an instant success. I mean, I just mentioned two of them. You know, I've got the ability to not to have recency bias on this kind of stuff. I just mentioned Troy Aikman, and I just mentioned Peyton Manning. You know, check their rookie years. You know, not what you would think Hall of Famers would be, and they ended up being that because of the variables that I talked about. But look, Stetson Bennett's an interesting case study because he's again, you know, he's an older player, but this guy's overcome everything football wise. I mean, people have tried to pass over him, you know, within the last 6 years and all he's done because of the circumstances, and he's had a big part of producing 2 national championships in a row. That's not just easy to do. You know, Max Duggan caught lightning in a bottle, but the things that he overcame to be able to become the starting quarterback again. You know, he was benched at the early part of the season to come back and do what he did and basically, you know, be a big part of willing that team, you know, to a real fairy tale season. Both those guys have got something to them. Physical skills, physical abilities, they're a little bit separate and different. But I can say this about all 3 of those guys. You asked me the similarity. I think they're all really, really good competitors, which is important at that position.
He's Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio, OTP, TennesseeTitans.com. So many great things that they are producing digitally there. Mac, I appreciate your visits as always. Have a fantastic weekend, buddy.
Buck, you too. Don't be so hard on Robert. See you, brother.
I mean, if Coach Mac, I can't ignore an explicit order from Coach Mac, tempting as that might be.
So you're going to be a little bit nicer to me now? What does that even entail? I think it means you need to be softer on me to mistakes I make in sports updates.
I feel like you do get the nice version of me. Like Lucas gets the real version. I feel like you get the nice version.
I won't dispute that. Lucas has a better rapport with you when you try to get porcupine with him, when you try to get all spiky. he can kind of buck back up. See, when you get buck with me, I kind of just laugh it off. And maybe that's just me being disingenuous, but who knows?
Either way. 615-73, maybe we'll put it on a poll. Should I be nicer to Robert? 615-737-1045. That's a real Friday poll. Is how you join the discussion if you have thoughts on the quarterback situation. So there's an area, speaking of Robert's areas of expertise, as we try to cater to our own quote-unquote talent around here, we did not do the SEC stat of the day because Lucas is not here. Instead, we did weekly positivity. Robert, what are you about to drag me through coming up next?
It is the most majestic and athletic time of year. It is WrestleMania season. And it's next.
Buck Reising here from my good friend Gary. Don't sell without the intel. Ashton. Gary told me the other day people are constantly walking up to him and saying, don't sell without the intel. This message could not be more true. Right now, it's a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville. But you cannot do it. You must not do it without the intel. And no one's got more intel than the Gary Ashton team. It can help you sell your home without any stagings or showings, help you find your next home so that you can sell your current one while the market's still hot, and help you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity right now. For more intel, you can visit them at GaryAshton.com, where they give you the edge on the most up-to-date intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Preds and this radio show. Get the confidence to sell your home and find your dream address without the stress. Visit them today at GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel. All right, what is this music?
What?
What is this?
What?
What am I listening to?
What? You know exactly what music this is. What? You thought you were going to come in here and have a regular sports radio segment? Not with the Texas Rattlesnake. How do you not know this music? This is Stone Cold.
Buddy, I know Stone Cold because wasn't he like a prison guard in The Longest Yard, the remake?
That's what you know Stone Cold
That's
from?
the only reason I know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is.
I drank some vodka. What? And another beer. What? And a little tequila. What? You don't know any of that.
I have no idea what you're doing right now.
Gosh, dude, I need you to go home and YouTube like Stone Cold Booker T grocery store fight.
Yeah.
I need you to watch that. I need you to go and look up Stone Cold Deborah. I need you to go home and look up Stone Cold's King of the Ring promo where he said, you thump your Bible and you talk about your Psalms and your 316. Well, Austin 316 said, I just kicked your ass.
The most I know about any wrestler.
Let's hear it.
Is Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
And the most that I know about Hulk Hogan is I used to watch Hogan Knows Best on VH1.
I can get down with that. Brooke and Nick.
Brooke and Nick. You had Linda. And then, he had the sex tape with the racial slur, and that became a whole different.
Which is also a ridiculous story because that's his best friend's wife. Hulk got divorced. I don't want to talk about it. I should not talk about it. This is
you
not
immediately went down the rabbit hole.
I know. It's so good, though.
Long story short, why are you peppering me with wrestling?
It is WrestleMania season. WrestleMania is this weekend. And no, I do not mean partially this weekend because now WrestleMania is split into 2 nights, letting everybody have a little bit more time. It is WrestleMania weekend. We get 2 nights of WrestleMania. You get to see people in action like John Cena, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Are any of these names doing anything for you?
John Cena has that terrible movie about being the Marine where he's running through a swamp.
Correct.
I've seen that. I've seen that, but I've never seen Ferris Bueller.
Which is ridiculous to me.
I've seen that, but I've never seen Caddyshack.
God, all of these hurt my feelings, but just because you knew who John Cena was, I will allow it.
Also, John Cena follows me on Twitter. I don't know why.
He went through all that when he was doing like the ni hao, like the Chinese tour for Fast and Furious.
He had to apologize.
Well, because he said Taiwan was a country.
Yes.
And he bowed down to China.
That's right.
He was like, oh, I apologize for saying that. And Taiwan's like, no, we are a country. We are a legitimate place.
He had to apologize in Mandarin. John Cena did because he was so worried about movie sales in China. We happen to have that story. That was right when the radio show started for whatever reason. Kirby was back there with Lucas, and Kirby did not like the idea that John Cena was apologizing to the communist state of China.
I can only imagine
in Mandarin.
Kirby sipping a Pepsi, half-lit cigarette in his mouth.
He was not happy about that at all.
Do not bow to our foreign leaders. Well, since most of the wrestling doesn't do anything for you, there is also...
Okay, but it's not like... let me say this. I'm sorry to cut you off here.
Well, you do it all the time, so don't say sorry. Just stop doing it.
Okay. What event did we have at Nissan Stadium last year?
SummerSlam.
Okay.
One of the big 4.
Like SummerSlam, I was offered tickets to go. I didn't end up going. I think I had something going on. But it looked like a great time. Like it's like a NASCAR race. I've never been to a NASCAR race. But I would go. Like
always a blast.
I would totally go. It looks like a lot of fun. Now the idea of like watching stuff like this on television, I couldn't do it.
Sure.
I just, and I'm sure there's like all kinds of like childhood attachments. You get it from your parents growing up, or you grew up around it. You had it on television, whatever the case may be. Or this is like, it's just something that you do. Plenty of people have other interests, I guess, and wrestling is something that's always alluded to me. But I'm not like out here. I don't actively dismiss it. I would go to SummerSlam and have a great time. It looked like a lot of fun. The Titans sure as hell looked like they had a lot of fun in the with what was it, Jake Paul like swan diving off a tractor or something like that?
Yeah, off the side. Brock Lesnar lifted the ring with a tractor. But you like plays. You like Broadway plays.
I do like plays.
So it's kind of like that mixed with a demolition derby. So whether you like the songs or the plays or the lines or whatever you like from Broadway plays, this is just like an athletic play. And I'm glad you brought Logan Paul up because that will probably be one of the more athletic matches of the weekend. That's on night 1 on Saturday. You can see Seth Rollins, the architect. I don't think he's the architect anymore. Now I think he's like a fashion designer or something. He always walks out wearing the craziest stuff. Like, did you see that LSU coach's jacket with the pink feathers coming all out of it?
Yeah.
He wears stuff
Kim
like
Mulkey.
that on a regular. And him and Logan Paul are going to have a great feat. But you talked about the childhood attachment. When I was a kid and first got into wrestling, one of the first pay-per-views my mom bought me was SummerSlam, where Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, you know either one of those names?
I've heard Rey Mysterio.
Okay, Rey Mysterio.
Isn't that the guy that Bobby Boucher says is gonna?
No, that's Captain Insano. That's the Big Show.
Is that that's a real wrestler? Though.
Yes. Well, it's the Big Show.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Anyway, SummerSlam, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. They had a ladder match for who got to keep Rey Mysterio's child, Dominic. It was his.
What?
So whoever got to the top and
this
got
is like a Jim Harbaugh splitting the baby type of situation.
Yes. Okay. So Rey Mysterio went out, grabbed the contract, pulled it down, and so Dominic got to stay his kid. Now Rey Mysterio is wrestling his son Dominic at WrestleMania. Father versus son. They've been having this spat. Dominic would roll into Thanksgiving, Christmas, any kind of holiday they were having and ruin the whole setup. And this weekend, he told his mom to shut up, which Ray took offense to. That was the final line. That was the line in the sand. That was the needle in the haystack.
So this is basically like soaps for men.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
well,
I get that.
I actually used to, back in North Carolina, there was a place called Carolina Wrestling Federation. It was like professional wrestling for not professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
So a bunch of my buddies, I got a bunch of guys you could see in WWE. I used to be a referee there. So I got to see how all this stuff was done in the back. Some of my buddies that wrestled there, like Cedric Alexander, he's in WWE. Cameron Grimes, he used to be Trevor Lee, he's in WWE. So I got to see how this, and I kind of fell in love with the process about how they do these matches and how they put it together. So stuff like this for me is like always a big time. Love wrestling, love WrestleMania, big time. And hopefully, once Nashville gets their new stadium, they can host a WrestleMania, and I'll show you how to really do it.
That is certainly. Listen, I'll go. I'm down to go.
The only time I've ever been arrested, though, was at a WrestleMania.
Does our employer know about this?
It's past the statute of limitations. You hired me knowing what I am. How could you talk to me one time and go, that guy's never got in trouble before? Never a public intoxication. This happened when I was like 22, which is almost 8 years ago. God, I feel so old. But that's the only time I've ever been in trouble with the law was one WrestleMania weekend. I got to have some shots with Ric Flair. That was my undoing.
Tyler, okay, that's my wrestling connection. Ric Flair came to Titans practice last year.
What does he say?
Woo!
There you go. Yeah.
I was drunk at a bar in Tampa.
Of course you were.
With Ric Flair.
Of course he was.
Because he was sitting by himself at the bar, drinking a glass of red wine and having his dinner, and we were down there for Titans joint training camp practices with the Bucks. And I happened to be at the bar, and I said, hey, I know you.
He is the man.
He's the woo guy.
He is, God, way to just shrink him down to the woo guy. Legendary wrestling figure Ric Flair, and he is going to be the woo guy.
Isn't he the woo guy?
I would not describe him as that.
Okay.
But he woo! Anyway, that's been your WrestleMania preview.
Hey, somebody just said we get more WWE talk than MLB talk. You're right.
You're correct. Hey, I talked about Megan Thee Stallion today. We talked about baseball, our fair
We had
share.
somebody call in trying to talk to baseball. We said, no, we're not for you.
Yeah, I told you we were not going to come back around to John.
All right, former Titan center Ben Jones. Damn it, Robert.
Give me that $1.
All right, I'll pay $1. Former Titan center Ben Jones is texting me that he's in the parking lot. So I'm going to send Robert scrambling to go get him, and Ben's going to spend the final hour in studio with us coming up next.
What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Some ball news as Tennessee forward Olivier Nkamhoua entered the NCAA transfer portal. Nkamhoua appeared in 112 games for the Vols, including 58 starts. He averaged 6.5 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining due to the pandemic. Top-rated LSU defeated the number 9 Vols in Baton Rouge yesterday 5-2. It was the first game of their 3-game series. You can hear game 2 and 3 of the series right here on The Zone as we join Vol Network coverage at 6 p.m. tonight. Happy opening day for those that celebrate. The Braves defeated the Nationals 7-2 in their season opener. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour off and rolling. What's happening? Thanks for hanging out here with us on this Friday. Hope your Friday is off to a great start. If it's not, we're going to make it a lot better. Because Ben Jones is in the house. A round of applause for the big man. It can't be a round of applause if I'm the only one clapping, Robert. Let's make this seem a little more dramatic. You got Ben Jones out here golf clapping for himself. That's the level of production that we aspire to around here. My guy, it's great to see you.
It's good to be here. Good seeing you, Buck.
Man, when'd you get back into town? Because I know you've been taking some time away. Obviously, everything that's gone on in your life since the season ended, a lot of things I imagine that come to a very, very quick halt, and then you just get some time to yourself. When'd you get back?
Yeah, it was weird. Never really been injured ever. I went 19 years with not missing a game really, and getting put on the IR this year, it just threw me for a wrench. It was right around Christmas. I'm used to coming in, having Christmas morning with my family and kids and going back to work. So it was weird, spending time at home with the family, but it was good. I kind of got to clear my head now. I'm just trying to get healthy. I've had shoulder and elbow surgery this off season, and just mentally, I just want to get healthy and see what happens from there.
Okay, you have spent the last 6 years BSing me. Okay. Do you understand me? You cannot come in here on the day when I'm finally going to get to talk to the real Ben Jones for the first time in 6 years and tell me that you haven't been injured in 19 years. Ben, your injuries are famous at this point. You cannot tell me that you haven't been injured until this season when I have seen you, when I know all the different things that you have done across your football career. Your definition of injured is not the common man's definition, my friend.
Yeah, injured it happens. You're always injured in football. It's when I can't play.
Yeah.
I've had broken hands, torn knees. The worst, I'm telling you. I talked to one of my buddies the other day when my collarbone that connects to your sternum popped out and was stuck in my throat. And I'll come to the sideline mid-game, and I was throwing up there like, is he sick? I'm like, no, my collarbone's poking me in the back of the throat. And we had to put it back in because I had to go back in and play.
Ben, wait. Wait. What game? What year was this?
It was either, I think it was 16.
Okay.
Versus Houston. It was at the end of the season.
Oh, so there was no way they were getting you to come out of
no
that
chance.
game? Because that was your first. Would that have been the first game against the Texans since you came over here?
We were beating them, and it was at the end of the game. I lost to them at their place already, but I wanted to beat them at home. And it was like right there by the red zone. We were winning at the end of the game. My arm gets caught, and I remember it popping out. I remember coming to the sideline. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, he's throwing up. We don't know what's going on. I was like, no, this bone is in my throat. So we got it back in.
Oh, my God.
Put a little.
The noise.
Duct tape. I call it duct tape. It's whatever that black tape is.
At this point.
It's medical duct tape for the NFL world. And went back in there, and every snap it'd pop out. So that next week I had one more game after that. I think I had one game left. So all week at practice, just hand the ball to Marcus. I would block. Then in the game,
we're back, baby.
We're back in to finish it out.
All right. So I think there's a lot of different things that people are curious about from your career. And by the way, if you want to talk to Ben Jones, 615-737-1045, we'd be happy to take some calls. Ben, I asked Ben before we did this because I love you all, but you're insane. So let's break him in gently. A few first time callers, long time listeners type of deal. But your career, like you said, that has been a hallmark of it. And by the way, career not done, to the best of my knowledge. Like, just because you're not playing here next year does not mean that you're not playing next year, correct?
Correct. That's what I'm going through right now. I'm trying to find the best fit for me, my family, and I want to win a championship. Yeah. And wherever I feel that's where I can do it, that's what I'm going to join on.
So let's get to that here in just a second. But to what I guess creates – and you may not have a good answer for this yourself necessarily, Ben, but that's a unique kind of mindset that a person has to have that very, very few people, even in your profession, where you're all insane people, as far as I'm concerned, from my vantage point in the press box where I'm very safe with my coffee and maybe a brownie at halftime or something like that. What about the way that you grew up, or who instilled that thing in you? Because I have to imagine that there are some formative moments that lead a person to a place where, the collarbone in my neck, in my throat, that's fine. Just pop it in because I really want to kick this team's ass this week.
Yeah, I think it comes down to I was raised on a farm with my dad passed when I was 10, so my brother, my mom, it was just the way of life. No matter what, you got up, you finished the job. And I remember I used to give my brother a hard time. Back in Little League, he would cry if he got hit by a baseball or anything. And my mom's like, if I'm not carrying you to the emergency room, you better get up or you're done playing. I cracked my skull playing at a high school baseball game, walking, got hit with a baseball bat. And I walked out to my mom. I was crying. She's like, hey, what did you say? She thought I said I got hit in the back.
Yeah.
I told her I got hit with a bat. She was like, sit down and take some deep breaths.
Rub some dirt in it.
Yeah, so sit there, everything's good, then get sick, then she rushed me to the emergency room. Let alone 2 weeks before that, I'd cut my neck from ear to ear. I hit a barbed wire fence on a bicycle. So I'm super glued up from that because I didn't want to miss a baseball game. And 9 and 10-year-olds, my brother's like, hey, if you don't catch tonight, I can't pitch because if I caught, I'm the only one who could catch my older brother. He was like, I need you to catch. I'm like, well, up, Mama, super glue me up.
Yeah.
And we'll go out there and win this All-Stars, and we go to All-Stars. So Mom cleaned it, super glued me up, and went on about it. I think it kind of started there. And for me, it's just not letting down my brothers. If I can physically go out there and play, I'm going to play, no matter what the cause is. Even if it's worse in the long end, I'm going to play and figure it out later.
It's weird for me to say former Titan center Ben Jones is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. I'm paying $1 every time I say Titan center Ben Jones today on the air. I don't know if you've caught any of the show today, but I'm down, I think, about 3 at this point. Is that weird to hear yet?
Yeah, it is. Because playing that many years, I've been that guy no matter what. I was always in the lineup. I always got up. And that's when we talk about it, I'm like, if I ever started a game, I've never not finished anything. So no matter what injury I've had in the game, I finished it. And a lot of games I probably shouldn't have finished that hurt me later on, but that's one of my things. I'm going to get up and I'm going to finish no matter what.
I mean, it's always, I think, kind of uncomfortable when people are complimenting you, saying nice things about you to your face or things like that. It's, I don't know that people necessarily know how to respond in those moments, but people love you for this stuff, Ben. And understandably so, because it's set in a culture of ungodly tough dudes to be among the toughest, if not the toughest in a locker room. That's not an easy accomplishment. And I think so much of what this team has been during your time here, I mean, you're probably, I don't think probably is even a debate at this point. You are the best free agent signing that this team had under John because of your availability, because of the position that you play and how important that is for everything that you guys do. I don't know. There's obviously been a ton of tributes from your teammates here and obviously dudes who you were with in Houston and in different spots now across the league because you guys tend to scatter to the winds after a certain while, Wow. But, I mean, how does that kind of stuff hit you? Because on the one hand, I have to imagine that's hugely gratifying, but I'm also self-involved, Ben. So, that would hit me different than it probably hits a person like you. That just seems like, you treat it at least from our perspective, as yeah, that's just what I do.
Yeah, they brought me here to bring a mindset, to be a certain guy, and that's what I wanted. That's why I came here. I wanted to change the culture because I went from being in first place in Houston, coming to the team who was going to have the first pick in the draft, and I was like, we got to change some things. And stepping into that room and seeing, hey, this is a young bunch of guys. I was going to be the oldest guy in the room in year 5, and I was like, hey, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to practice every single day, no matter if you give me days off, no matter how I feel on Mondays after the game. I'm going to be there. And a lot of days I probably shouldn't have practiced, but I taped up the MCL when it was flopping around, couldn't stand up, and hey.
Just the visual of an MCL flopping around.
Yeah, so like when guys saw me going out to practice that way, not a game, but to practice, it's like, hey, this guy wants to win. So when somebody else is milking an injury, I'm like, dude, you know what I'm going through, and you're out here wanting to take off because you got a stomach ache. Go get an IV. Let's go to practice. So I try to hold everybody accountable, and that was one of my big roles. And, like, hey, the older you got, I'm like, hey, this guy's played 10,000 snaps in the league, and he's still practicing every day. Like, you got to have that mindset to help the young guys because everybody wants to get treated like a veteran. But my veteran was, hey, it comes with respect behind it.
There are people loading up the phone lines, and all it says is "Thank you, Ben." Across this is. I'm trying not to like. You've come in here. I'm excited to have a fun hour with you, and I feel like I don't want to turn this into like some kind of career eulogy. Like I feel like did it kind of feel that way when they officially announced the transaction?
Because people didn't know because they knew I've had the concussions. That's something you can't really play through. Vrabel takes very serious. And that's what he pretty much was like. Hey,
thank God for that, by the way.
Love Vrabel to death. He's one of my favorite people. He's so close with me and my family. You got to be close when you can hit him with a pie and cottage cheese and overnight oats in the face on his birthday and not fight you.
When you dumped an entire thing of baby powder on his head at training camp, I thought like, I've been telling Mike that this job is aging him like a president for a couple of years because he's definitely a hell of a lot, and maybe a variety of different things. But when I saw him, I didn't see you hit him with the thing of baby powder until he got closer, and he's just covered in the stuff. Like I feel like a lot of people Mike would swing at.
Yeah, but they know. Like he knows I'm only going to do it on his birthday, and if you catch me. It's, hey, I'm not going to do it no more, but you got to catch me.
You got to catch it.
The first time when I sat there in his office and looked him face to face and fake eating cottage cheese until I could flip it over in my hand and hold the plate and be like, hey, did you drop your phone? He looks down and I just
no
in his face when he first got here. And he was like, it was the middle of camp. I think Brady was coming here. You know, his stress level was through the roof with Bill and Brady.
Tense.
And I hammered him right on his birthday. And he was like, he didn't even know what hit him. He just had to laugh. Then he knew from then on. Like,
was that his first training camp? Like here?
It was either that was the first year I hit him was with the cottage cheese. Then it went overnight oats.
Oh, and he was all about like showing up for Tom and Bill coming in, and him and John both are probably on a different level.
He hadn't slept in 4 days. He's trying to make sure the schedule's right so him and Bill aren't fighting out there.
Yeah.
I think everybody knew anybody could be gotten when I hit J-Rob that day, and they were like, "Oh, he hit J-Rob."
Yeah, John's a different kind of like entity out there.
But that speaks for my relationships I have with the guys in the building. I put in time, even in the off season. Like a normal day for me in the off season, I'd be there from 8 to 12.
Yeah.
And the only people are there are equipment guys, a couple trainers. So I would spend time in everybody's office. I'd go up to Ryan Kelton's office. I'd go sit in J-Rob's office. Like, who are the guys we looking at? Because I want to know who was playing beside me, who are we looking at? Because I would look at them like, how about this guy? And stuff like that. So I wanted to know who around the league could fit our culture, who was going to sit in that O-line room with me, because I wanted to win a championship.
That's not necessarily common. And by the way, not a lot of people would, I feel like, and just knowing this has been the organization that I've covered my entire career, so I can't speak to other places, but like I don't feel like that's an allowance that's made for a lot of players.
Right. It's earned, and they know how much this organization, how much football and everything means to me. Like getting there at the crack of dawn during the season, staying through whenever, running all the run game meetings, running all the stuff by myself in my room. Like it wasn't just, hey, I sit in a room and listen to our coach. Like I had initiative to, hey, we're trying to win. We're going to fix it our way. Off days, bringing in the whole line, watching tape and like, hey, it comes a lot better from a veteran than a coach sometimes. Like hearing mistakes like, hey, this is getting us beat. Like, we got to fix this, and you're able to fix it quicker when it's coming from a veteran than a coach sometimes. He's
former Titan center Ben Jones. He's dumb enough to come hang out in studio with us for an hour today, which makes me happy because I've really enjoyed working with you. I love that I'm getting to see you outside of work because I don't know, it feels like things can be super rigid throughout the course of a season because nobody's really sleeping very well.
Exactly.
And everybody's on high alert, whether you've won a game or you've lost a game or whatever the case may be. So be able to hang out like this is fun. We're going to take some phone calls for Ben Jones here in just a second. We'll talk to him about that point that he's just made, the idea of kind of having input on the players that the Titans were having and kind of how that's come into play with the teams that we've seen over the last couple of years. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. I'm Buck Reising. He's Ben Jones. This is 1045 The Zone. All right, we got Ben Jones hanging out in studio with us. We got loaded lines because you guys love this man, and you want to say thank you. Now, we're going to take a handful of these, but, I don't want to put a cap on people's gratitude, Ben. But I do feel like we have to mix in some story time with Ben Jones as well, because having covered you guys, like I feel like I have such a different perspective on the same games, like what it was to go through that 2019 run, or the winning in situation against Indianapolis when Marcus can't go, and we find out like the morning of, because God knows how many things that dude was playing through at the time.
Yeah.
All these different things, but I want to get people the opportunity to say thank you to you. So let's go to Sean in Bowling Green, Kentucky up first. Hey, Sean.
Hey, good afternoon, fellas. How are y'all?
Great.
Good. Hey, I just wanted to, not say bye to Ben, but he's one of the only two jerseys that I've ever bought. I love Titans football, but I'm just not a jersey guy. And also, Ben, right before COVID, I know you probably don't remember, but you went to Hope House. My mom was there battling cancer, and she said you sat down with her and took a picture with her, and she brought it home to brag to me. Well, she would never let me have it. So the day she passed, that was one of the first things I went and grabbed. It was one of those pictures. She said you just made her feel like you were just there, really checking on her, nothing to do with the Titans organization. So good luck, Ben. Love you, and look forward to watching you this season.
I appreciate it, sir. It means a lot.
When you have a moment like that, Ben, because you guys, and you in particular, it feels like the community has been as big an emphasis and why this place is so important to you at a particular time in your career, and the group of guys that you've been doing it with, who are getting fewer and fewer by the day, by the way. Like for Sean to say I love you in that spot, that's such a, like, it's hard to get dudes to say that to one another if you've known each other your entire lives. Like, that's such a unique thing. And I wonder, that's a level of responsibility, Ben, that I don't know that necessarily many people could handle, but you seem to do it with a great deal of grace.
Yeah, doing that charity work, going to see people when they're struggling. Because I had people come to me when I've had my dad pass, when I had brain surgery, when I missed stuff, and when those are some dark days. And I remember getting a card from Mark Brunell when I was sitting in the hospital when I had brain surgery. I was like, man, an NFL quarterback wrote me a handwritten letter. It was the best thing in the world. I still have that in my room at home. And you never know, just, hey, it's writing a card, calling somebody, sending them a text, writing them a message back when they're struggling on Instagram, how far that goes to people.
So that level of personal connection, that's something that Mike Vrabel talks to us a lot about, and the locker room atmosphere, the family environment that they want to create there. And you talked about how close you've been with Mike since he's come here. So kind of when you know that this conversation between you and Vrabel and whomever else is involved in the decision to release you, when that comes down, how do you kind of process it? And can you give people a little context for what that was for you?
Yeah, we sat down multiple days. It wasn't just one call. It was tears shed. It was hey, you sure this is the right thing? This is what we need to do. Are you okay with us doing it this way? I'm like, hey, I've done everything I could for y'all. If this is where we need to go, this is what we need to do. Like, I still talk to him probably once a week, talk to the trainers, strength staff. So they mean a lot to me over there, and it was just part of the business, and this is what it needed to happen for them and their next steps they were taking.
With that, though, like Derek and you have such a cool relationship, it seems like. And I've heard you call him, your best friend on the team, and like, things like in Cincinnati, you guys doing the gritty. Like, I don't see a lot of centers doing the gritty with their running back, Ben, no matter how many touchdowns you've helped that man score. The relationship with Derek in particular, what kind of bore that out? Because, I mean, people see Derek, they see this superhero-like figure, and it almost ignores the person that he is, who I know, who you know, to be genuine, soft-spoken, not necessarily like this outward extrovert type of individual. And I know when he first got here, it took him a little while to get in the right headspace. How big a part of getting Derek out of his shell do you feel like you guys were as a unit, and you in particular? Because it seems like what you guys have is really cool.
Yeah, Derek's by far, he's my best friend. I talk to him at least once a day. He's special when he FaceTimes your daughter on her birthday and wishes her a happy birthday. He is as good as a guy as they come. And we've had, from going to the Pro Bowl this year, I felt like I was his security guard out there. I'm like, hey, this is my guy.
Still.
Like, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Like doing it, going to dinners with him and his family. He's one of us. He can come to my house at any time. Our kids are the same age, so they have play dates. He is literally my brother through and through. And I know he was shy, and he's on a whole nother level of trying to hold an image and trying to keep family and football and everything, keeping everybody secure. And I respect how he does it. And for me, I'm like, hey, how can I help? And if it's in the game, I'm picking that big joker up because he is heavy. I'm like, I'm tired, and you get to go to the sideline and take a breath. I got to pick you up every single play. But I know what he wants. He wants to win the championship just like me. He wants to be that leading rusher. And as for offensive lineman, that's my goals. I want him to be the guy every single year. And that's when I came back last year. I was like, it's no way I'm not going to come back and block for a Derrick Henry coming off for an injury and seeing how hard he worked to get back. I was like, I want to be a part of something special. And he was one of the main reasons why I signed back here.
19 was the closest that you guys got, that run. And, not ultimately as kind of that core group where you're talking about Derek and you and Lawan. Kern was a part of this. Byard, who's still there, the core group of it, Delaney in a different iteration of that. Like, it's all starting to kind of cycle through as we know the NFL life cycle for these franchises kind of do. But in 19, just the entire roller coaster ride that was that season from your standpoint, because you're starting the season with Marcus, you know what kind of a delicate situation Marcus is in. They ultimately make the decision in Denver to bench him. You have Ryan, and then you guys go on this insane run. That's so many different moments and so many different emotional, I feel like, situations that you have to process while trying to focus on win football games. Was that where I guess does that rank in terms of years in your career that you've experienced among all the different moments that you've had with all these different teammates?
Yeah, it definitely hit the lows of low and the high of highs.
It was a total roller coaster.
Because Marcus is literally, he was one of my best friends and still is. Anytime I go to Vegas, I go to dinner with him. I talked to him when he had his daughter. I'm calling, sending some camo out there. I'm like, I want to be the first person to send your daughter some camo.
Wait, did you buy that? Because I know you like free stuff.
I love free.
Is this free camo or did you buy the camo?
I don't have girl camo at my house, so I had to order off of Cabela's and send it out there to him. But having that, what he plays through, the injuries and stuff, and seeing him, because you knew once you go that away, it's no coming back usually for a guy on that team. And then Ryan stepping in, and such a great guy as Ryan. He's one of my friends here now, and it's just so hard, that relationship with quarterback center transitioning like that in the middle of the season. But then we go on that run. Derek does something special that year. We break the Russian. He ends up being the Russian leader at the end of the year. In the last game, he breaks the long run versus Houston. That transitions us right into the playoffs. I feel like as an offensive lineman, that's what gave us all right, we got the leading rusher. Everything just started changing right there, and we ran it down people's throats.
It was unreal.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, just that whole run. I still think about that, Ben, and that's just as somebody who's sitting in a press box eating free food for all these games, and then coming and bothering you guys in press conferences afterwards. That was just such a unique time, and certainly something that I know a lot of Titans fans hold dear. And how big a part you guys specifically, offensive line and running back, and I know that's a team effort, and the run game takes all 11 in that way, but. How it was defined specifically by your ability to run the football in that spot. And Derek in particular, I mean, I'm sure you've seen, like we all have, about the Derek's situation and the discussion around him this offseason. And it seems like he's going to come back. He's going to be back here for 2023. But did you guys talk, now that you are going to be able to pick where you want to go? Did you guys talk about that at all? Like potentially playing somewhere else together?
Yeah, if some reason he was somewhere else, I would definitely look at that, because I know what he can do to a game and what he means to me and my family. Have a familiar face in the locker room, but it's going to be hard to not see Derek right here in two-tone blue. Like, what he means to this team, this community, I don't see him playing anywhere else.
Yeah, it's a unique circumstance, and he's obviously like we've said, an overwhelming figure in all of this, especially in this franchise's history. 615-737-1045. We're taking calls, and we're hanging out with former Titans center Ben Jones here on 1045 The Zone. Slade in Cookeville is next.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hey, just wanted to check in less about the thanking and the eulogy part, and more just say, I got to meet Ben at one of the season ticket member draft parties a few years ago. Best dude I've ever met. Took the time to talk to my wife, get a picture with us both, and I guess just wanted to just say thank you for being that cool of a guy outside of football. So appreciate it.
We're all normal. If not, I'd be on the farm back at home helping my brother with cows. So I'm cut with the same thread as everybody else. I know sometimes you look at different statuses from football to actors to singers, but if I don't have a helmet on, I'm out there. Like I was talking to somebody the other day. I was out there holding the garden, getting my vegetables ready to plant here this weekend.
Okay, what's in the ground right now?
So spring. So I'm doing lettuces, spinach, kales, broccoli, Brussels, all your winter stuff.
Okay. I have so you legitimately enjoy that kind of stuff.
Oh, growing up on a farm, like I hated it as a kid doing it.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, man, I love digging. It's like it's bringing back. It's like, hey, this is my roots. This is my kids can help out with it.
Yeah. So that's like a core memory type of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just working out there. I'm like, as a kid, my mom, I'd be out there holding, and our garden was huge back in the day with peas and okra and corn. Now it's just a little more manageable. And it's still being able to eat the fresh fruit, fresh vegetables right there and having the kids do it with me.
With all the different things on the football field and like moments that kind of crystallize what it is that you're there to do, when you're talking about playing through the amount of things, I'll call them injuries, even though Ben will
bumps.
Bumps and bruises, even though it's a collarbone in the back of your throat. What's the worst thing that you've played through? Is it that? Because that sounds particularly awful.
That was bad. Tearing the MCL, it wasn't fun. Broken hand on the snap hand wasn't fun. Like you're trying to squeeze a ball and you can't feel your hand is broke. Concussions aren't fun to play through, but don't recommend it, kids. If you get a concussion, come out the game. I'm just wired a little different. I'm thinking it's going to go away, but no matter what, that was just my motto. It's probably how I'm wired and where I'm at today.
So the concussions, though, are a different question. And by the way, if we get too, if this gets too personal, Ben, you can tell me to bleep off at any point. But the concussions are a different level of I think, discussion for obvious reasons.
Right.
You've just given out sound advice, which is, be cognizant of that if you're somebody who's playing youth football and all these different things. I'm sure you've had experiences with them in years past, but not to the point where they've been so debilitating where they had to shut you down for the year.
Right. For me, I'm so worked up in the game. I'm so focused. And the whole time I have this thing in the back of my head, I'm fine. And it really doesn't hit me until the game's over. Then all my emotions come down, and sitting in the locker room or on the plane run back from the charge, I'm like, I'm not okay. Like, that's when it usually hits me. But my adrenaline's pumping so hard in the game. Like, if you're playing through broken bones and injuries, I don't feel them. Like, I'm numb. Like, I go numb. I'm so focused. Like, how do I get back to the huddle? Like, I'd have games with my knees popping in and out, and I'm just like, all right, next play. And I'm in the huddle, like, screaming, trying to get to my face, and Derek's looking at me like, what in the world is going on? Or Tanner would be, like, calling a play, like, you need a second? I'm like, just give me 10 seconds, Tanny. Like, I got to get my knee working before we can go back on the next snap. And Taylor's trying to come back to the huddle. He's still smack talking somebody on the other sideline. But by that time, I'm usually ready to roll.
Taylor, which, by the way, delights me that you're doing this interview before you've done Bussin' with the Boys. Eat it, Lawan. I'm sure I'll get a nasty text about later. The relationship that the two of you have, and obviously, you're such a cohesive unit as an offensive line, but the both of you being on the way out this year, to see, Derek talking about how there would be no him without the two of you and all those different things. What have the conversations been like between the two of you since that's come down? Because, I mean, he was talking about it on the podcast. I think Taylor got released first officially, and then he had intimated that might be something that was coming for you and ultimately did. What discussions have you guys had about how different things are now?
Yeah, we've talked about this day. We had our corner in our corner locker room down there. If nobody's been in the locker room, we kind of ruled that corner with the beaver and the owl and
damn stuffed beaver
and all the music that he would play that made
Dead Puppies
made interviews really, really hard for y'all.
A whole season of that song, Dead Puppies, in the background. I just remember walking up to Ben and Dennis Kelly and being like, wait, what am I supposed to do with this?
As Taylor.
Just the worst.
Oh, the amount of stories we have together. He is through and through my brother. We've been through it all. We've been through the highs and lows and through his injuries and his stuff. It's never easy. You want to see a guy go out on his own shoes because he means so much to this organization. But he's got his little podcast, and I can't wait to see if it's still playing
his
or
little podcast.
His little podcast on the bus and doing all that. So I love Taylor to death, and Compton, he's my guy.
Well, I could take or leave Will. Jeff in Nashville is next. Apparently he's got a Ben Jones story. Hey, Jeff.
Yes, how are y'all?
Great.
Hey, quick story about Ben. I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and a couple years ago they were doing a fashion show, and another Titans player was scheduled to walk with her, and did not make it. And Ben walked down and did the fashion show with her. And she's got Ben Jones jersey. She talks about him all the time. So just appreciate you, Ben. Thanks, man.
Man, your daughter was the best. I remember that like it was yesterday, doing the runway and just seeing the smile on her face, me and her breaking it down at the end of the runway, having a good time. And you never know, just doing little events like that, how much they impact our lives, not just us impacting their lives. And you got a great little daughter.
There's been so many moments like that, and obviously you've affected a great many people with all the work that you've done. But is there what I guess has been like one of the most memorable moments for you in Nashville, whether that's on the football field or off, Ben? Because I know we've talked a lot about the community work as well, and there's just so many across the span of 6 years. And to the best of my knowledge, you're not like going anywhere. Are you going to be around until?
Yeah, I'll be around. Doing some of those rally on the runways events with people who are fighting cancer, who are in remission, just getting the text saying like, hey, I beat it. Like some of those, like you never know what those kids are going through because they're kids. Yeah. They're under 18 and just seeing that fight like, hey, it's way bigger than football. Or doing like we do like a Christmas shopping spree, like when you're taking kids shopping and you're like, hey, this is their budget. Like this is what we're going to, so you're helping them shop. And I'm like, hey, what is this? He's like, this is for my mom. This is for my dad. So they're shopping for their family, not for themselves. I'm like, man, buy whatever you want. Like your price limit, you can get whatever you want. Like I'll cover whatever you need. Make sure you get yourself something. Like this is about you, but I know you're thinking of others, but you got no price limit, buddy.
What's the dumbest question you've ever been asked by one of us? I feel like I've wandered over to the offensive line corner many a time asking many stupid questions, and Ben has fought them off admirably. But I got to feel like there's one across 6 years where you just had to do a double take and what?
Probably when y'all know I'm injured and y'all ask me, hey, why is your snaps a little low? I'm like, oh, yeah, my collarbone's popping out and going in my throat in between each snap. I think my snap, I got an elbow brace from wrist to my shoulder, and I can't use my arm. It's a robot right now, and you asked me why I have a little low snaps in the game. I think you can figure it out right now.
just hold it up and show a bunch of like scars and stitches and whatnot. What do you think? I'm probably going to ask more stupid questions at some point in my career, but I feel like offensive line is the thing that is as scrutinized as any position on a football field that at least people who discuss football for a living that didn't play know the least about. Like I feel like of all the position groups on a football field, I know the least about what it is that you guys do, even as I know it's so important for everything that you need an offense to function.
Yeah, from protections to run game, we're blocking for Derrick Henry. Every hole is supposed to be great holes. Some teams you're playing, they put two extra guys in the box that we can't block. So I'm trying to figure out the way, like, hey, which one's least dangerous for Derrick? Like, I might leave him this corner on this play and see if he can tackle him. Next time, I'm going to leave this backside safety to try to – so I'm fixing stuff as the game goes along to what fits Derek. Where do you want to see the guy? You want to see him in your face and make him miss? You want to see it backside? Hey, if I get this guy front side, it could wind back. So a lot of stuff in the run game, I'm just trying to make it so Derek's comfortable, get everybody on good angles, then protection. That's a whole different issue. Hey, Tannehill, who do you not want to get hit by here? You're hot. So you want to get hit by this DN who's free?
Who would you least like to get hit?
Or do you want to hit this safety who's is going to get here faster than the DN? But which one do you not want to be hit by? I'm because both of these guys are coming. So I'm circling guys for him. I'm waving hey, these guys are coming. I heard their call. They called this blitz, and I have it written in my notebook hey, this means this. He's you sure? I'm I promise you, this guy's coming. He's all right, I trust you. Stuff like that.
There it goes.
You never know what you're going to hear out there in the game. I hear, playing for so long, I would hear one call in the game. I'm hey, Tannehill, if you hear Waco, you hear Weasel, it's weak safety. If you hear anything from the outside, it's New York, it's from the right, it's Florida from the left. He's oh, my goodness. I'm yes, I'm hearing stuff. So if you see me waving, you might want to come up here and listen.
It's just an extra set of eyes and ears on the football field. That's why, honestly, you talk to coaches and scouts about this. Centers, to some of them, the second most important position on the field outside of quarterback, because those are the only two players that are handling the ball on literally every snap. We're going to do one more segment with Ben. We got time for a few more phone calls, and we'll bang out some polls. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Both Ben Jones and I are big fans of Two Rivers Ford because they've been doing business in Middle Tennessee for 40 years. It's their 40th anniversary as a local business here in Middle Tennessee, which is absolutely huge. They've been a big part of the community, so much of what we do around here at 104.5 The Zone, a part of local sports and local charities. If you're from Nashville, you know this, but if you're new to town, maybe you don't. So here's what Two Rivers Ford is all about. It goes without saying that they've been doing business with honesty and integrity for 40 years. When you go to Two Rivers, what you see is what you get. They're transparent and upfront, and their non-commissioned salespeople never put pressure on their customers. They have great prices. They always sell below MSRP on all their non-specialty new Fords, and they make the car buying process easy. Whether you're ordering a vehicle from them, like I did, shopping on the lot, or shopping online, they do business however you want to. And finally, Two Rivers has asked me to make sure to say thank you to their customers here in Middle Tennessee for 40 great years. They can't wait for the next 40 with you. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. All right, so I started this hour with Ben Jones saying that Ben has been actively ducking me for 6 years as far as media questions are concerned. All of a sudden, he's he's in the free agency cycle, which I imagine has got to be exciting, buddy.
It's definitely different, and especially at this point in your career, kind of getting to pick where you want to go. It's weird, but it's definitely humbling getting to talk to different GMs and coaches and trying to figure out where you fit in the mix and where I can win a championship.
Yeah, but 6 years ducking me in the meantime, and now you're a whole media person. You're out here. We're having him cut stuff during the commercial break. He's hitting his out times. Like this man is a media member already. What happened?
You never knew this redneck was so technically sound over here.
No,
I
knew, which is what pisses me off. I knew for 6 damn years.
Edited Ben that couldn't say we're going to get better. We're trying to get better. We're trying to win a football game.
It's like Mike Vrabel handed you a piece of paper with all the talking points, and you just read them off the sheet.
Absolutely,
genius. All right, we're taking calls for Ben at this point before we do the polls, and we really embarrass ourselves in front of a professional. All right, Robert's telling me in my ear I have time for one. Bert, pick one.
Let's go to line one.
Okay, line one. Tom is up next. Hey, Tom.
Hello, guys. Hey, Ben, this is TK here. Coach Canavy.
Oh, what's up, Tom?
What's up, buddy? Hey, I just wanted to let you know I was driving around getting things done today, listening to the radio like I always do, to the zone, and I was going to shoot you a text to tell you how good this segment is going, but I want to do it right on the public airwaves and just say thanks for everything here in Tennessee. Thanks for being a great player when I was running the weight room there, and a great leader, and I want to wish you and your family all the best going forward, man. Good luck to you.
You're the man, Canavy. Love you to death.
And I want to assure anybody listening that, you know, if you're starting to feel like the dictionary definition of football player is what you're listening to, that's absolutely true. And I don't say that about every player, and when a guy comes in and is expected to be a leader and walks the walk every day, I mean, not everyone understands that. You know, you played every game, you practiced every practice. You also came in and worked out when sometimes they wanted to turn you away and say, go get in the triage unit, Ben, for crying out loud. There were some tough Mondays, but you were always there, man, and it made the younger guys feel like, you know, that they shouldn't ask for any considerations because look at this guy. He could probably get a pass, but he's in there. And it shouldn't be understated that turnaround in 2016. The fun thing about football, why we love it, is you can go back and look like there's so many moving parts. But what things were done that got this team to start winning again. And 2016 was just Ben came in, and sometimes one move puts all the pieces in place. You know, you have a 5-man unit working as one, but you bring one guy in, everything falls into place. And that year, we really got things swung around. Twice in my career, I was fortunate enough to see that happen. That's a 25-year career. Go back, if you want, look at Andy Reid's second year in Philadelphia. I was there, and we brought in John Runyon from Tennessee, coincidentally, and it was like, okay, that's our right tackle. And then we were solidified with who was going to be the left tackle and moved the guy that was swinging around to be the guard, and everything swung around. And look at the fortunes of that team after we made that move. The same thing happened. Ben came in. Taylor was going to be our left tackle. We drafted a right tackle. Things fell into place, and Ben brought that mindset, and he should get every bit of credit for it. He's never going to ask for it, but he deserves a lot of credit for a massive turnaround. And I've been in this business for, you know, a couple of decades.
You're the man, Tom.
Thanks very much for the call, Coach. That's former Titans strength and conditioning coach Tom Canavy there with us on the show. So Ben, I'm going to give you the mic for a couple of seconds. If you want to say anything to Titans fans and Nashville before we put a bow on this show, we're going to save you the indignity of having to update the polls with us. But, Robert, the polls, had we have done them, are presented by?
They're presented by Two Rivers Ford, where you can bring in any Ford, and they will give you value over MSRP.
Okay, and they will continue to be presented by Two Rivers Ford. But, Ben, I give you the floor.
I just want to start out by thanking that organization for believing in me and taking a chance on me from – a guy who was raised right up down the road here from Alabama, getting to be back close to home for my family can come to any game they want to. They can drive up to any game and see them and being able to turn this program around and having so many winning seasons in a row, it means a lot because we saw the fan base grow. We saw the runs, supporting my foundation and charity here, and just being able to dive into this community. This is such a small community here, and it feels like a hometown that I grew up in. Everybody reaches out to you. They check in on you, and I love this city dear and dear.